Welcome back to Planet Zoo, Hertfordshire Zoo edition. Now, forgive me if I sound a bit nasally. I've been ill the last few days, close on to a week now. I think I have a chest infection. Sorry, I had to mute to cough. It's awful. Today, we are building a kangaroo / wallaby enclosure. Now, this is going to be the last episode in the Oceania / Australia zone, which is this zone that you can see here. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to add in a gift shop at the beginning of the way in to see them, or at least the way out. So for now, just enjoy the voiceover, the speed build, and I will see you again next time. Thanks very much for watching. I'm sorry about my voice. I'll see you again next time. Goodbye for now. Well, I would like to say what an intro and tell you that I'm better, but unfortunately I'm not. I'm still quite ill. However, I started to build, and I started to build in my head a volcano. So I've done the column trick, which you do, and then I extended it up once or twice, and then I'd done the same thing but even closer into the centre. That way I could have it coming together at the top. However, I thought it would be too big, so I sort of went with what I've got here, about this height. In all honesty, this bit that I'm doing now just wasn't necessary. You'll see why shortly. I do apologise if I keep having to mute. I am still ill, so I'm trying to do this whilst I'm ill. I then added in a lot of the different lava texture stones. I was trying to go with kind of like the rocky lava on the outside, moving into what I guess you would call active lava, or more flowing lava in the centre, as you can see. So the rocks change. Now, unfortunately, because of the shape of them, they don't exactly lend themselves to blending too well. So you see a lot of the time I sort of keep having to go back in and make changes, and this looks like a chicken nugget. But I think it looks okay there. I then go onto the side and try and make almost like flowing lava, because there's nothing, they haven't added anything that makes lava flow. Like, there's no special effects where you could have lava flow like you have with water or steam or mist or dirt or stuff like that. So I picked I guess what you would class as the back to have the lava flow out of, and a few smaller pieces here and there to make it seem a bit less stable. And that was just a mixture of different rocks, different angles, and just putting them together and seeing how I felt about it, really. Now, I have to give a shout out to, I think it's Haybeck, who is another Planet Zoo designer. He is on something like 6 videos and he's got 500 subscribers or something. I randomly came across his channel recently, and his builds are really, really good. If you like kind of super realistic builds, then I definitely recommend him. For anyone that watches this bit, definitely recommend watching his channel, because genuinely I was quite amazed, and I actually learnt some stuff from him. I learnt about rock layering and how much better it looks when they're layered correctly. Very, very similar kind of building to Caesar creates, so definitely worth checking out. So I actually end up taking this out, and I have to put the shop back in because pathing system, yet again in Planet Zoo, and it just didn't come out the way I wanted it to, like that. And it turns out you can't actually add a path on one side and the other. It needs to only be from what I guess you would class as the front of the shop. So I end up adding it in again, and then just going over any loose areas outside where the floor is with some more of the black rocks that we've been putting down, or the volcanic rocks I guess they're supposed to be. Then start adding in all of the furniture for the shop. I do change how this looks momentarily. I end up building a little statue area, I guess you want to call it. Now I do a lot of the building outside of the volcano because it is quite difficult with camera angles to build, and when you're moving around you sort of clip through stuff and pieces, so it is a tad annoying, and I do end up building a lot outside, but then I do move it back inside, so you're not missing out on much. Now I would imagine a lot of people on YouTube will leave these parts out, but I don't leave these pieces out. I want to show you my thought process. As you can see, I was trying to build a plinth. It didn't quite work out the way I wanted it to, so I ended up grabbing one of the pre-made plinths and just customizing it slightly to make it look a bit more unique and not just Planet Zoo. So I didn't like the way that looked on top, so I ended up adding in these different shapes that I've had from the Australia pack, stuff that I haven't really used yet. So I thought that would look okay. It doesn't look too bad. And then I just based these small shop pieces around the statues and then moved that inside of the shop. I do two of them. I do. Just because I thought it would look better, a bit more full, because there's not actually that many options with the shop. So yeah, then I start putting things into the shop again. I could have changed all of these bits myself, but I really don't have time to do that. I lead a busy life. I've been ill. I have work to do, unfortunately. So I can't spend hours and hours doing that. I then decided that I needed some lighting, and I put in these wallpaper pieces, which again I've used. I think this is the second time I've used them now, and they are really, really good. I think they look really good as well. I painted it to make it look if it was in a volcano, and then added in some lights, made them black with the light orange. Then I decided I'm being stupid, so copy and pasted around rather than trying to put it all on individual pieces, and then just added in the lights on the main piece. I'm actually really happy the way that these lights turned out, so they fit in there quite nicely. I then thought, well, that doesn't really make sense, so I added in some girder pieces, so it's as if, you know, they've put in a pop-up shop inside of a volcano, which I don't know. I quite like it. I quite like it, but you know, I think it's turned out alright. Then the only bit I did customise in the shop is this bit, because I didn't really like the way it looked, and I also added in a light above these people to make it look a bit more light in there, because the lighting is so weird in this game. It's so strange. I didn't want to bring the lights down too much, but at the same time I needed there to be some sort of lighting in there. So all this is, it is the hang-in lights, but without the hang-in side of it. And I didn't like how it looked with those big poles, so I ended up getting the Grassland's animal sign pole, duplicating that a few times and then hanging it above them. And I actually think that turned out quite well. I'm quite happy with that, and I do actually end up using that in my build for today. Then I was trying to work out how I can kind of get something to curve without doing the circular trick, but there's nothing really small that curves, so I had to get these pieces and just move them around. It comes out more like a, oh, how many pieces are there? 7, 8 octagon we'll go with octagon because I can't count the pieces whilst it's in speed build. And then I put in the text that says pay here. You notice I put in a lot of P's, and that's because I wanted them to be uniform around the whole thing as best as I could. However, it didn't really work out that way, but I fixed it. I made it okay. And that was pretty much the end of the shop. You'll see it in slightly better detail when I do the tour at the end, but I'm really happy with the way that this has turned out, and it's definitely made me think about lighting a bit better, especially the kind of pop-up kind of look. I really like it, especially with like the wallpaper pieces scattered around the room, so to speak. I really like that, so I'm very, very happy with the way that this came out. I then wanted to finish off the rocks around the outside of the area. Again, this does change quite soon. You'll see when I go to do the next piece how different this will become, because I don't think I ended up recording the whole thing, as you can see. So I do end up getting rid of that piece again, because even though you can't add, this is a different day, even though you can't add another sort of exit or entrance, I thought, do you know what, it'd be a really good way of incorporating the build by adding in like a viewing area. I don't suspect that anyone will actually view it from here in the game, but in real life I feel like it would actually be really awesome to go into a shop and be able to see some animals on the other side. And I went with the stone because of it being in a volcano. I didn't quite like using too much wood inside of a volcano, or what looks like an active volcano, or supposed to be an active volcano. So I went with the stone because it's not a black stone kind of look yet, and then added in the sloped roof. Well, started to add in the sloped roof. So I tried to get in as much light as I kind of liked by using the glass panels that I'm about to put in. And until I add the lighting, I don't actually like this building. Once I built it, I thought, do you know what, it looks okay. But I wasn't 100% on it, I wasn't sold on it. And like I say, it was only when I added the lighting that I said to myself, actually I like this building. So we'll see what happens with that. As I said, I do use the lighting from the shop in the build, and that's me just popping it into the sleeping area hard shelter for them all. And then of course I need to add every single light as on rather than automatic, but that looks so much better with that lighting. I really like the way that this has come out with the lighting. I then added in the wood here just to break up the stone a little bit, and again, I'm genuinely really happy with the way that this came out. Normally with like hard shelters I'm a bit boring with them because I'm not that skilled as a builder. However, really happy with very happy with the way that this came out. I'm sorry, I am ill, so take pity on me please. Then added in these metal girders as a kind of way to have aircon, experimenting with it, and I quite liked the way it came out actually, so I might do this in future builds. And then added in these vents
because I think they looked the best out of all of them inside this girder. And I think it's somewhat legit. It would probably get very hot in there if it was next to an active volcano. See, here I'm going through loads of different pieces that I potentially haven't used, and considering this is the last Australian / Oceanian build, I thought it would be good to try and sort of use pieces that I haven't used yet. I kind of gave up on that and went straight in for education boards, because we need to have these education boards, and I wanted to kind of hide these a little bit because I really don't like the way they look, at least with the TV screens. You can hide them kind of, whereas this one, there's nothing really that kind of like bends around it. They haven't made anything that does that, so I kind of had to make my own, bearing in mind that all of this really is covered by the wall, but it doesn't cover it all. I then added in these tube lights, and it didn't really do what I wanted it to. You can see them on, but it didn't really put any light behind it, as I thought it might really be kind of really light behind it, almost like an LED in every streamer's room, but it doesn't really do that, and I'm not too sure why, because it's reflecting onto the glass, so it doesn't really make sense as to why that didn't do anything. That was a cut in the recording, just to let you know. I didn't randomly pull this big rock formation in, but you saw how it looked beforehand, and then using some videos that I've seen online, I don't know if I'm doing it right, however I started to layer the rocks more, and I actually think they look so much better and so much more, I guess, realistic when you layer them compared to just putting one or two next to each other and pushing them together. So I'm just incrementally, very small amounts, just lifting it up ever so slightly and kind of pulling it out, almost as if I am with like a hill or a mountain or a piece of terrain, where you're pulling it out really slowly to try and get it to be a bit more smoother. And I actually think it ended up coming out really, really nice. And it was quite nice to be able to use the Savannah rocks in this build versus the black rocks. It would have made sense to do the black rocks because of where I am. Or maybe I could have done... Sorry, I had to cough again. I could have kind of done like a mix of the two at the front and have it kind of gradient out. But I didn't think of that at the time, which is annoying because it's actually a really good idea. But, oh well, you snooze, you lose. Hindsight. So then I added in this barrier, because we needed a barrier for the animals. So it's just made from a log post, again something I haven't used. I haven't really used the rope either, and a painted wooden beam, and another wooden beam, like a thin one and a thick one. Then added in the rope again, and then added in another beam, and then added in some netting, because I haven't used the netting, and it looks the same as mesh. And to be honest, because it's a custom barrier, it doesn't have to be rock solid. Obviously in real life, netting would not stop a kangaroo, and to be fair, this height would not stop a kangaroo, I don't think. But I think it came out looking really good. It fits the theme, and I'm really happy with the way that this particular barrier came out. Now I do end up adding the barrier around the top of the rocks because they were escape points for the animals. So don't be surprised when you see that, because it was a bit random. Now I did obviously consider the escape zones, but I don't think I went to the extreme that I needed to in terms of escape, because apparently they can jump really, really high but can't jump over the barrier that I've got here. Think of that what you will. I then added in the staff entrance. So in case you're not aware, staff can use doors and the doors kind of ignore anything that's in front of it for a couple of meters, or anything behind it for a couple of meters. I believe it's a couple of meters, correct me if I'm wrong, but essentially you can put rocks over the doors, or trees, bushes, etc. over the doors, and they will just walk through it like it's not there. So I enclosed it, so to speak, and then added in another orange light. Went crazy on the orange lights today, just to add a bit of light in this in the corner of the exhibit. I think it looks okay, and I can't complain too much. I think it looks alright, actually. I think so. And then I added in these rock formations, again using the kind of layering that I've looked at online. Again, I could be getting it slightly wrong, but again, I even if I'm getting it wrong, I do think it looks so much better than just having a few random rocks laying around, because they don't quite fade into the ground the way that doing this, I guess, technique does. So really happy I watched that video. Again, that has come from Haybeck, Haybeck, I believe it is. And this is the final product.